The views expressed on this podcast are the views of the podcast host only. The host neither represents or endorses any specific satanic organization or tradition. If you enjoyed the show, please take a moment to leave us a review on iTunes, and please tell a friend. I'd really appreciate it. You can also follow me on Twitter at RJWO15. If you have questions or comments, you can leave us a message at speakpipe.com/DIR podcast. That's speakpipe.com/DIR podcast.
This is the Dark Illumination Report podcast with RJ Womack.
Hi everybody, thanks for joining me for this episode. I apologize it's been so long since our last episode, but I've been dealing with a hacking cough that has made it rather difficult for me to be able to record. As a matter of fact, I'm still trying to deal with it now as I'm recording this. Because I want to keep this episode relatively short, I'm just going to jump right in and start answering user questions to start with. I had a question from the last episode that basically asked me in a roundabout way why it is that I recommended books that advocated commanding demons if I believe in the demons so much. For the record, I'm a theistic Satanist who really does believe in the demons and Satan as my gods, so I wouldn't think of commanding them to do anything. The books that I recommend are recommended as an academic study because I find that older books are more accurate and they have more detailed information and they're better researched and they're better fact-checked than modern books. So what I try to do is get Satanists to study older books so that they get a good baseline of knowledge before they study more modern books, more contemporary books. Because I think it keeps you from getting deceived and getting distracted and getting misled if you read older books that have a more academic approach first. And many of these older books are focused on the grimoires. They're focused on the, like the Goetia and stuff like that. So, of course, they're going to have rituals in them that focus on commanding demons. It doesn't mean that I advocate the practice just because I recommend the books. Because I think Satanists should know their history and they should know how their religion is perceived in the past and in the present. And I think they should be aware of these techniques and be aware of these things, regardless of whether they decide to use them or not. To me, Satan is a god of knowledge, and knowledge means knowing as much as you possibly can about your religion and its history. And I think you need to study the past, and you need to study the practices of the past in order to be able to apply what's useful to you in the future. So that's why I have people study more academic books from some of the people that wrote some of the books I recommended, like say The Black Arts by Richard Cavendish. Richard Cavendish isn't even a practicing occultist. He's just a historian. He's just a researcher. But his information and his research is so accurate that I think every Satanist should read it. But he's not a practicing Satanist by any means. But it's still worth reading for any beginner, I think. And just for the record, I find the rituals in the Goetia extremely disrespectful to the demons, and I would never use them. The only thing that I would use from the Goetia is the sigils. I think the sigils have been used long enough over the centuries that the demons will respect them if the person doing the ritual does it in a respectful way. I don't think you should use any of the methods in the Goetia, anything out of it except the sigils. And I would never dream of disrespecting Satan or the demons by trying to conjure them or communicate with them by using the Goetia type rituals. I want to make that clear so everybody understands it. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't study it and you should know the history of it, because it's part of the history of our religion and part of the history of magic. So therefore you should study it. It's that simple. Another reason why reading these books are important is because atheism did not exist masquerading as Satanism. The only thing these books talk about is religious Satanism, and they use the term Satanism to refer to the religious worship of Satan. Because many of these books were written long before any atheistic Satanism movement got started, they don't use cliches like oh, Satanism is more of a philosophy than a religion. The more you read and the more you study, the more you realize that all of the stuff that you're being told by atheistic Satanism is just that. It's a line of stuff. The only way you're going to be able to figure out whether what I'm saying is true or not is if you study for yourself. And the only way you're going to find that out is if you actually go look at the books that were written before atheistic Satanism became popular. Well, that about does it for this episode. I hope to see you next time. Take care, guys. Have a good week.
Thank you for listening to the Dark Illumination Report podcast. For the latest news headlines, show information, and more, go to rjwomack.com. That's rjwomack.com.